Let me give you a prelude to what my presentation is going to be about. All right, we're going to assume that there's a small group of people that are right now on the surface of Mars with all of their equipment. And you can see here's part of their equipment that they had. And we're going to also assume that some of the members that are on Mars right now are actually at one time were a CMO graduate. In case you don't know that, that's the engineering club here. Okay, here's the scenario. For a period of time, no one can leave the Mars habitat because there's some solar storms going on, or there's something that maybe everybody's sick, but there's a bunch of chores that have to be done. So we have a rover there at the Mars habitat that we can configure to go out and do these various chores. And basically now we have university students that are working on rovers just for that future event. Now, what you're looking at, this is one that was done by college students from total scratch. Okay, so my presentation today is called the University Mars Rover Challenge 2011. It was the challenge, the Mars Society began the first one in 2007, and now it's become international. This one, the one I'm going to present today, was the one that occurred last summer in Hanksville, Utah. And if you don't know where Hanksville, Utah is, there it is, right there in the middle of the desert in Utah. Del Mar's located right about, let's see, this thing work? Del Mar's located there. So you can see it's quite a ways from here. Okay, and here are the challengers. And you can see they're all ready to start the actual challenge itself. Okay, what are the majors of these students that enter this rover challenge? You can say, well, they're all going to be engineers and things like this. They're all going to be graduate students. I will point out to you that over half of these are freshmen and sophomore students. And they're going to do all of this work in their own spare time during Christmas vacations, during Thanksgiving, and during holidays. Less than half of them are actually going to be electrical engineers or mechanical or civil or industrial engineering. So less than half of them are actually engineering majors. The others are biology, chemistry, math, computers, physics, accounting, education majors, and all of them have one thing in common. They have a real passion for space, and they want to be a part of our space race.
No geologists?
The geologist also in there. Should have put that in there, I guess. We actually did, I think it was about 5 students that were geology majors. All right, now what the students had to do, they had to design, build, and compete with rovers that could be used for that scenario that I told you about. We're going to be in the Mars habitat on Mars, and then we're going to send it out to doing the work. So what they're doing, they're preparing a rover that can do this kind of work. Okay, so I will point out to you that all expenses, and including travel and lodging and everything else that's done with this challenge, is done by the participating teams themselves. Basically, the Mars Society gives them no money whatsoever. So let me show you some of the participants that we have. This would be Oregon State University, Corvallis, Oregon. You see, they had a pretty good contingent. They really get serious about this. They have their own T-shirts, they have their own little motto, they have a little bit of everything else. And that was the rover that they designed. Brigham Young University had a fairly large contingent. It was just a few hundred miles away. Then we had the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan. This time they only had 5. And they did not get the support from the college that they wanted, and I think this is maybe why they didn't perform as well as they could have here. All right, then we have the University of Waterloo, which is in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. Had a pretty good contingency of students from there. Then York University. Now these were real feisty students in here. They were from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And then we go to our across the ocean participants. This is a Copernicus team from the Nicholas Copernicus University at Torun, Poland. And then we have the Scorpio team. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly because I don't speak Polish, but it's a Wrocław University of Technology at Wrocław, Poland. And then we have the Magma 2 team from Białystok University of Technology from Białystok, Poland. So these are our participants in here. I will tell you that when the Polish team comes, they're basically treated like rock stars in Poland. They are on television interviews, they're all in the press and everything else. This is a little thing I got off the internet about after the competition. They're talking about everything that they had there. Well, one of the things they did prepare was for the television they told me about, so I'm going to include only about 1 minute of it. They finally put together their rover and they're going to test it out from the school. They went and had a bunch of gravel dumped over there on the campus so they could test it out. So this gives you an idea of their rover. They're trying to get it up this gravel hill. Have to make several attempts of it. Each of the wheels are independently powered. Almost got it over. This is what they were showing on Polish television. I know. Did not tip over. So that's just a little bit of it in there. As you can see, I'm going to be highly favorable of this team because of all the work that they did. Okay, here we are. Now we're in Hanksville, Utah. The Rover Challenge is ready to begin. These students got there on their own. The Canadian students basically drove. The American students drove. And of course, the Polish students, they had to come from international travel with all of their equipment, which means everything had to be broken down, and they have to come and put them back together in here. So right now we're meeting at the Whispering Sands Motel in Hanksville, and there's a briefing of what's going to happen, so get all the students together. And then from here, after the briefing, then we're going to go in a caravan, and we're going to head out toward the site of the competition. So here we see this is the about 10 miles out of Hanksville, and then we go about 5 miles on the road out in here. So there's the teams are caravanning out. So we get an idea, just an idea of what the terrain looks like in that area. Go a little bit further, we have to go through this one wash, very narrow, but all the cars can get through. And then we headed to the open plains again. And this, if you look right in there, there is the Mars Desert Research Station. And this looks just like Mars. It's basically the same type of scenery that you would see if you were actually on that planet. So here are the teams approaching the Mars habitat. And of course, one of the things they're all excited about is not only the competition, but none of them have ever been here before, and they would like to see what's going to be on the inside. So we kind of give them a little tour of that. Okay, the Mars Society, this is called the MDRS, or the Mars Desert Research Station, and basically it's supposed to be a rocket that actually landed on Mars. This is a greenhouse where you recycle all the water, and Elon Musk, the guy that invented PayPal, that's the head of SpaceX, donated a telescope right there. So they got some pretty good connections in there. Okay, so here's some pictures of the terrain at the Mars Desert Research Station to get an idea of what it really looks like. So this is looking out in one direction. This is looking out in another direction. You can see basically there's no vegetation in most of the area in there. It's a Mars-like desert. All right, so let me make some one-to-one comparison. This is a picture taken by the Spirit in one of the craters on Mars. And this is Utah. And then we have another one that was taken Victoria Crater on Mars. And this is the one in Utah. So I could go and show you similarities all day long about why this site was chosen to put the research station. Okay, so this truly is a Mars-like environment. Okay, most of the students have never seen scenery like this. They were just absolutely fascinated. So what they're doing is they're getting all their equipment now, and they're trying to get them all put together and kind of drive around and take pictures. They're just absolutely fascinated by it. And it is a beautiful scenery out in there. Okay, let's take a look at the 5 components of the competition. Day 1, we have presentations and later testing of the equipment and making adjustments on it. So the first competition is worth about 100 points. Now each team has about 15 minutes to do their presentation, and they have to talk about how they started their organization, who's the team members of it, how did they manage it, what was the cost of it, who designed the rover, how did they put, remember they're starting from literally scratch in here, and what's its suitability going to be if it was actually on Mars. So again, this is typical of the Mars Society. As I was one of the judges in there, we pay our own expenses in here, so it says a job of hard work, no pay and eternal glory. So that's what it's like for most of us that volunteer for the Mars Society. Okay, so the first presentation I'm going to show you is the one that's done by Inside the Habitat, and it's done by the Waterloo team. And I will point out to you that each team could spend only a maximum of $15,000 of their team's money, which they had to raise themselves for their rovers. Most of the schools did not donate the money, so they had to go outside and bake sales and everything else they could to get the money. And they had to build their own rovers from scratch. If your team entered one last year, you could not use any components of it at all. So what we'll see is that every year when they come, everybody literally designs new rovers. And it seems like every year they get more and more sophisticated. So let me just show you, they're talking about how they set up their cameras for this competition.
They use a telescope to see the markings, the 3mm markings are almost 100 meters away. And for this configuration, we're going to have a third-eye view camera again, and a center guide camera.
So you got a camera there, there, and there.
On top of the telescope, we have two cameras. We have the black one over here, which serves two purposes. First is to point exactly where our telescope is pointing, so it can help us aim the telescope.
So this goes to show you some of the presentations that they, and I'll show you a couple more in here, that they had to go through, and they're judged on the quality of their presentation. All right, now we'll point out to you that all the components that they use for building their rovers have to come right off the shelves, or if you have a board, you build the board yourself. One year, a couple of years ago, the Polish team did not have a video board, and they literally built their own video board in here. There could be no special outsourcing. However, the stuff like laptops and joysticks and stuff like that, that's not included in the cost, and you don't have to go and build your own computer. Okay, so this is a presentation by York University, and this lady is going to explain about their organization and how they got literally one of the freshman students that's going to be in charge of the design of the rover.
And the fourth is the sponsorship availability, because it changes from time to time. Along with this, the other thing that the management tries to ensure is that the fresh talent or the fresh new members who join the team have an equal advantage, and they can contribute as much as the experienced member. So, for example, we do have this year Chidi, who is a first-year student and who is responsible for making the deployment package.
So she's just discussing each of the members and how they each had a part of the design of the equipment in there. Okay, faculty advisors, they all had to have faculty advisors, but they could only observe and make suggestions. They were not allowed to be a part of the money raising. They were not allowed to make designs. They could say yes or no on their designs. Here we see the University of Michigan doing their presentation, and they did pretty good on theirs. All right, all rovers basically have to use battery power. Because remember, we don't have to have solar panels on them. We are in Mars. We're on Mars. And if we're going to send these out, we'll be able to charge the batteries there. Not allowed to use gasoline engines or air-compressed engines or anything else on this. Okay, so there's the presentation that the Magma team made with their rovers. All right, as a second part of the presentation, the rovers had to be weighed. Now, you had to weigh every single thing that the rover was going to have on. Remember, we have 4 different tasks, so you're going to have to weigh all the components to it. So this is, I forget which one this one is right in through here, BYU. Theirs is being weighed. Okay, you lose 10 points for every kilo over 50 kilos. So the maximum that the rover's weight was about 110 pounds. So if you got there and your rover was overweight, you were allowed to strip parts off, but you could never use them again. And one team was a little bit over, so they decided that they'd go ahead and take the penalties. You can see how different ways they're trying to lose weight by even putting little treads on their tires, which works sometimes. So here we see the Waterloo rover that's being weighed. Okay, here's the rover that for the Copernicus team that came in from Poland, came in at 49.5 kilos. So they were the closest ones. They got right there at the limit of the weight. Okay, so this is their scale, their rover being weighed. Okay, here was the Magma one that we saw the little video clip on. They did something that no one had ever done before. What they did is they bought a bunch of acrylic plastic, and they cut this plastic themselves, and they made it out of plastic. And this weighs about 35 kilos, so they came in with the lightest of all the rovers. And they really had some really very good components with this one.
Would that work on Mars?
Yeah. Anything, so what you're trying to do is trying to reduce the weight. Okay, so here was the result of the scorecard so far for the presentation. We see that York University won by 89, but they were really close ones in there. BYU, theirs was about 2.5 kilos overweight, so they lost 25 points. Okay, so the remaining competition now is going to be timed, and it's going to be scored with about 100 points with each one of these present competitions. So let's look at some general rules for the competition. All rovers must be operated remotely by the team which cannot directly review the rover and its mission. Now, we don't have it in the habitat because we have so many teams, and you have the radio would interfere with each other, so we have like one team over here, and 3 miles away we have another team where they're doing their competition. So instead of being in a rover, they literally have a tent. They're not allowed to look outside the tent, and most of the rovers are going to be about a half a mile away anyway, so they wouldn't be able to see them. So here we see that the Oregon team, Oregon State University, is setting up their command center for their first competition. Okay, all rovers are to be commanded by the team, and they have to use onboard cameras and wireless links. So you can see how they actually had a steering wheel for theirs, and they had joysticks, and you can see these students are serious about this. You know what the reward is? Attaboy. You won it. Wow. Yeah, you imagine that all the expense and all the efforts that they're doing it literally for the love of doing this.
What's the wireless signal consist of?
We have a big antenna, and they have to remove it, and that's part, we don't put that as part of their weight in there.
What form of?
I'm not sure. Well, it has to go in with the U.S. codes on radios and all this sort of stuff.
Radio?
It's a radio waves, yes.
Would those same radio waves be the ones you would use on Mars?
Yes, you could use those there.
So the
yeah.
radiation difference, being closer to the sun wouldn't make a difference.
No, you can use that there. Okay, so here we see the Polish. This is the Scorpio team. They're getting ready to look at their mission, get started. Okay, like BYU, every team has their own command center. We saw the Polish team was using a lot of laptops. The Scorpio, this one, apparently they can drive, and they brought in some big monitors for theirs, but they have everything from laptops to monitors. Here's the York team from Canada. They're setting up theirs. There's their joysticks. They have a couple of these, and they have the plasma screens and the laptops. And here was one at the Magma team. I just have to they're incredulous of what all the things they did. There's their monitors. I don't know, have y'all ever seen that you actually have glasses for monitors? So that's what they did. Notice they have no monitors at all.
Is that one of the Polish teams?
That's the Polish team. That's the Magma team. And not only that, they built their own control box. So you can see here they are. This is during an actual operation in there, and they're talking with each other. This one's, we always have a note taker to make sure, because maybe they want to enter again next year and taking all kinds of notes. So they actually built their own control box, and this is what they're seeing, because they don't have any monitor. Remember, they're trying to save money flying from Poland over to the U.S. Okay, each team has about 15 minutes to test and make sure all their components are ready before they start that whatever competition is at that time. And so we see all the teams here checking out everything. All right, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Yeah, so everything's getting ready. And once they start, they're going to be inside the tent. Okay, you can see how complex some of these rovers are. So what they're doing is they're checking this here. All right, is there something not working? Go and making a quick check on this one. And you can see there's a lot of parts to check. Remember, this was done in their spare time. They designed this stuff themselves. They cut the wires themselves. They put all this together. Freshmen and sophomores. Okay, here's another one. You can see that these things are really complex, and this is something that they take this stuff really serious. Okay, here with the Michigan team, they were getting ready to set up, and something went wrong. And so now they're losing communications, and so before they even start, there's the antenna right there, and somehow it's not getting in there, so they're trying to find out what in the world is going wrong before the competition even started with their particular event. Okay, special permissions that would be allowed. All right, runners are allowed to walk alongside the rovers, but they have to stay out of sight of the cameras. And if they get in view of the camera, they have to just stand still. They can't point. They can't do anything. They can't have two-way radios. They can't have people out the tent looking at them, giving signals in here. They're there for a couple of reasons. One is to film the performance of their rovers and to take notes, because remember, we got 3 other competitions to do also in here. So they're going to make sure that nothing goes wrong here. And they also have a kill switch, so that if it hits a rock or something, which we're going to see is going to actually happen in here, they can kill it, especially if it starts smoking. at least they can try to repair it for the next competition. So that was something that we allowed for the runners to do. Okay, the second competitive task was after the presentation. That was the first one. You're going to have to go out here somewhere in that general direction. There's 5 astronauts that are lost. And you're going to have to drop them a package with their number, because each of them have their own specialized rescue equipment in here, and you have to drop it within 1 meter of the astronaut, and you're not allowed to run over them. All right, so it's all you have is just the last general known location. Remember, you're just sitting in a tent here with your camera scanning the countryside, looking to see if we can actually find an astronaut. Okay, obviously some of the astronauts have been lost for a long time. So these are the astronauts that they're looking for. Okay, so now the stage is set for the ultimate resupply of these astronauts. So they're preparing the rover for the relief packages. You can see how each of them will try different methods to drop these packages. Here, each team will have their own different delivery systems. So they're going through and getting ready for the competition here. It looks like I said 5, maybe there's 4. I can't, maybe, there's 4 astronauts there. So it's going to turn out each of these have highly variable results. Okay, so the team is ready now to search for the astronaut and to deploy the packages. So they're taking one last look at it. And now it's ready to go, and she's going to be the runner that's going to go alongside this to make sure that nothing goes wrong, and they have to kill the package or have to kill the whole competition there. So here the camera is searching for the astronauts to be able to drop off this numbered package. And there's the package that is looking for it, and there it is. Found good news. We found the first stranded astronaut. So they're trying to go and approach the astronaut, and each team are going to have their own method to approach it. Now remember, if you run over it, you lose a lot of points. Your ideal is not to kill the astronaut. Your ideal is to resupply the astronaut. So here's we see that the rover's carefully, and I just have different rovers on here, where they're carefully approaching the astronaut. Make sure that they got the correct number, because they have, first of all, they have to find what the number is, and they have to drop the package number 1 to the number 1 astronaut. So dropping off the one package at a time was a real problem for most of the rovers, because when they dropped one, sometimes they all wanted to go down. So this was and this happened to a couple of them. So some of them had some problems in here. So we see here's the astronaut eagerly awaiting for them to drop the package, and it's a successful drop. Now we have to go and find the other astronaut. And this is done, I think they have 30 minutes to find all 4 of these astronauts. Okay, here we see another astronaut received her rescue package. So at least some of these are being rescued. I don't think that, I think maybe one team did find all 4 of the astronauts. Okay, so here is the scores for event number 2. We can see the Oregon State University, they was most successful. Scorpio, Poland only dropped 1 box. When I say 1 box, they dropped all of them. So that counted against them. Here, Copernicus never even left the starting gate. So they're having problems. University of Michigan, they got to one of them, and they tried to get the boxes to release, and none of the boxes would release. And then the Waterloo, what happened is you have to come back in a certain amount of time, and they were way late to bring in their rover back, so they ended up costing them some points. So the winner of this one easily then was Oregon State University. So you can see that problems arise no matter how well you prepare for this, no matter what your competition is going to be. Okay, with the morning completion of resupplying the stranded astronaut, now the afternoon was, we have time for lunch, and you have 2 hours to basically refit your rovers for the 3rd task. Okay, so task number 3 was to go to an isolated circuit board that they've never seen before. They've never seen this. And they have to, this is going to be at least 1 kilometer away. It's about a half a mile away from where their tent is. And they're going to have to perform a number of operations. They don't know what they are. They have to come and read them right here. What does I do first, second, and third? So that's the same thing you're on Mars. I know I got this panel that's out in here, and I have to go and do a bunch of resetting on it. How do I do it? So they come out there and they read exactly what they have to do and the order that they have to do it. So you can see some of the things they have to do. They have to throw switches, and they have to do them in order as prescribed right in through there. Otherwise, the thing blows up, theoretically. And then you have electrical cords that have to be plugged in. Notice that that one's inset into the board. So they have to pick up the cords. That one has to go there. That one has to go there. That one has to go there. So they've never seen this before, but they were told that this is what they would have to do. Okay, so completing these tasks would be a major challenge to do remotely. We can see one kind of got one in right there. Okay, so the first rover is beginning its challenge. So first of all, it's trying to get into here where it can read the instructions. So getting the positioning in here turns out to be was a problem that a lot of them had not anticipated. So the positioning was absolutely critical, but after all, you do have your arm, and you have to have it so that your cameras can see everything, and so that you can go through and follow all the instructions in here. So this is one of the problems that some of them had, was actually the positioning of their rovers to do the task. Okay, each rover used different strategies to insert the electrical plugs. I just put an insert here. This one actually was able to go in and put a plug in. In fact, quite surprisingly, a lot of them were able to do this. Okay, so here's some are going to be more successful than others. This one had the long arm, but the arm didn't quite have the flexibility that they want, so they had a little bit of problem with this one, but they were able to complete some of the tasks. Okay, so here, remember, all of these were built by students in Christmas vacation, Thanksgiving. This is, they designed this whole thing themselves. They're putting it together. It's not one person doing it, but a team of these. And you see how complex these things are, and they had to come up with these ideas of how they're going to do all these various tasks in here. Yeah, I tell you, I was just amazed by what these students did. Okay, judge, now when they're actually doing all this stuff, you can see here's the judges watching everything to make sure that everything gets done exactly in the order that it's supposed to be done. Okay, so let's take a look at the scores for task number 3. Magma won that one handily with 73 points. Scorpio, their camera stopped working as they were on their way, so they were lost. They couldn't get the camera to work before the competition ended. BYU got up to the switch, and I think they did one switch, and they turned it, and the camera fell off. So that was the end of that one. Copernicus just could not get their rover. Their rover was too big to get into, reach in there, and to do a lot of switches, so they didn't do very well. And the poor University of Michigan, they're the one now this time that didn't even leave the starting gate. So something happened to their rover in there. So we can see the results of the competition for task number 2. Okay, for day 3 now, the rovers are going to be, that's the next day, they're going to be refitted 2 more times for 2 more tasks. So we can see here where they're setting everything up. Okay, on task number 4, it's surveying. And what they have to do is they have to find 4 posts. Here's a typical post there. And they have to describe the markings. Each of them will have different sets of markings on them. They have to have the GPS location of this at the scale that we tell them to use, and they have to have the elevations. And you say, well, they don't have GPS on Mars. Well, I would assume that they would have a bunch of repeater stations on Mars so that if somebody gets lost, they'd be able to find their way back. So we're going to assume the same thing here. Okay, now the teams were not given these locations at all. You had to go and find these. We told them they're at least half a mile away from, it's a kilometer away from the station. You have to go and find these on your own. So this is going to take a lot of camera work for them to do this. Okay, there's post number 1. So remember now, one thing I must add in here, they also have to take a picture of this also. So here we see this is, I think, York University as they're approaching it. Look at all the different cameras and everything there, and I think they were very successful on doing this. Okay, there's post number 2. See what it looks like. They had to go through and describe that, give the elevation of it. This is post number 3. It was stuck up in a canyon. There's 2 teams, I think, found all of them in there. Okay, now here's the Waterloo Command trying to find these posts. Now remember, now we see the picture from the outside. This is all they see. So they're trying to go through and actually find out where those actual posts are. So this is Waterloo, and you can set this one up so that you can see what's going on here. So here's the rover trying to find the post. And there's one way back over there. So we got the cameras looking everywhere. And they're about pretty close to half a mile away from the tent right now. Start looking for it. All right, and then everybody has to get out of the way because the camera is it's pointed toward you. I think they missed that one post over there. So it's not as easy as what you think it is for them to find these. Okay, this is, now you have to get back in time. So here we see the Waterloo rover trying to get back to the starting gate.
What was the time limit, sir?
30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Yeah.
For each more post.
Yeah. And they have to come and there's a little X on the ground right there, and they have to come exactly and land on that X. They get penalized for distance. Now he's trying to find where that X is. So you can see that this is not as easy as what you know, for us taking a look at it this way, well, it's fairly easy. Okay, here is the York command. I'm doing this here so you can see what it's like in the tent where they're trying to locate the post. So here's the command. It's about 100 degrees there, by the way. So there he is with the sticks, and they're trying to look at the screens. See, they're pretty serious about it. Notice that he's doing it with his iPhone, looking for it too.
Are you approaching the pole or no?
So you can see these students, they are really intent on this. Okay, and there they are getting the fixed on that particular post. Okay, Magma 2, again, this is, it becomes obvious it's one of my favorite teams on there. They did something that no one else has done. What they did is they decided to deploy a hexacopter. A hexacopter has, 6 propellers on it. And if you use this, we're going to assume that the gravity is going to be different on Mars than it is on Earth. So if your battery on this thing weighed 1 pound, you had to put another extra pound on it to make it just as if it was actually going to be on Mars. So one of the things too is if you deploy this, you have to take it away from the starting center, take it out somewhere, drop it, and then go do your searching. And when you come back, you cannot leave any equipment out there, so you have to pick it back up and come back to the starting gate. So there's the actual hexacopter. Let me show you how this is. They're going to deploy it, and then you'll see that the rover is going to tell the hexacopter has a camera on it trying to find the post, and then the rover is going to try to follow it and see if it can find that post also. So there's going to deploy the hexacopter.
This is awesome.
That story is good.
Sorry about jiggling. I was walking and holding the camera at the same time. So you'll see from the shadow when they start the props. Come on, now, there we go. One of the props hadn't started yet.
What's the power supply?
The batteries.
Whoa!
And there it takes off.
What a smart idea.
And there's cameras on it too. And then you have somebody with a joystick that's controlling this. Okay, and there goes the rover. Now the guy with the rover command has to be able to communicate with that hexacopter there to see where the posts are. So here's the rover taking off now, trying to find the post. So they're coordinating between the hexacopter and the rover. These are the runners following it. You can see the hexacopter there looking for the post. So they found one, and the hexacopter is going to make sure they go to the right place. Wouldn't it be fun to control that? Yeah. So it's making sure it goes right to the post. So now they're doing their survey to get the GPS and the pictures and the description and the elevation of it.
They'll give them advantage, the hexacopter.
It seemed to help. But I tell you what, there will be a team that does not use a hexacopter, and they got all of them too. So, but this is the first time. Now, we anticipated that this was going to happen, and remember, they had to put extra weight on this thing. And they have to, you know, they have to, if you put a bigger battery to operate it, that means in cameras you have to put in a bigger battery, you know, to counterweight it in there. Okay, here the Magma Team hexacopter. This is the operator right there. He's doing that right there. And also he's communicating with the other guy there. Okay, now do you see where the rover is? And then the two of them are doing it like this. Remember, they can't even see each other.
Is that considered part of the rover weight?
Yes, they had another joystick over here for the rover. I think this one was used principally for the hexacopter in
Now,
there.
was the hexacopter considered part of the actual weight of the rover?
Yes.
When it was weighed?
Yeah, it weighed, I think, about a half a pound.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an incredible little machine that they have. They bought it for, they had to buy it on the open market, and that was part of their cost. I think it said it cost them $1,100 for the hexacopter.
Wow.
Okay, so the Magma Tomb, of course, has to return to the home base. There's an X on the ground, and they have to pick up that hexacopter. So we'll see how they go about picking it up. There's a wire sitting on top of it right in there. Now remember, you can't see this. You're in that tent, and they don't want to destroy it. And they're running out of time. I thought they had an unusual way of picking it up and carrying it. Now they have to find the X. So they're turning the cameras around, trying to see where it is. I mean, you have to be impressed with this team. Okay, where's the X? There's the X on the ground. They have to be within 1 meter of it. You can see where they were. They got right back to that in there.
Really well done.
Yeah, they were an incredible team. Okay, BYU, I didn't put any music to this because I wanted you to listen. We got all these judges and the runners following it. And they're going to have to use their kill switch. And unfortunately, it's rough ground, and I'm going to lose part of it. You're going to see the flag, but I think I have it when they actually do the crash. So let's see what happened to them. So they had just got through surveying a post. And they're trying to go find the second post. And they're running out of time, so they get into a big hurry. See, they got trouble with their tires coming apart right now, one of the treads.
Seems like their center of gravity is a lot higher, too. So
Yeah.
it makes it more unstable.
Yeah. They thought it was going to turn over there, and it didn't.
I didn't think it was going to make it over
Now what's happening, they're going to go faster than I can kind of keep up with it. And they're headed toward a rock. Now they can't hear us. So apparently they see it with a camera and they back up. Okay, now they're going to get in a hurry. They have to get back. And it started smoking, so they had to go and do the kill switch on it. And that's not good. No. So this was a real problem for the BYU team on this particular thing. But because they were able to use a kill switch on it, they were able to continue to compete with the other things. So here we see the scores for the survey competitions. The one that had the hexacopter got a perfect score, and York that did not have it. They just had their telescopes and all their cameras in there. They made a perfect score. BYU, you can see after the first post, they crashed. Copernicus, they didn't find all of the posts. Michigan, they got the correct signs, but they didn't have the correct GPS. And Waterloo, they used the wrong GPS system. So, and they only found, I think, one post too. So that's what the score is to right now. So we got some teams here getting pretty close to each other. Oregon State did fairly well also. Okay, now for the last competition, this is good. This is for the biology people. The rovers had to find an example of bacteria or anything that's living in that area. Now there's some bushes in there that you don't include that. So you're going to have to find any bacteria or algal life forms in here. You have to pick up a sample and you have to bring it back to the station to test it. You're giving about 15 minutes to prepare a presentation. You're going to look at it with a microscope, do some chemical test, whatever it is, and then you have to give us a 15-minute presentation of what did you do, why did you use this method, why didn't you use another method, and give the results of your search. Okay, so here's some of these extremophile that live out in there. This is a bacterium that lives between the little edges of rocks, a little tiny green algae that lives right in through there. That was one of the things that they could find. And there were a few little lichens growing on rocks out in there, and that would be another thing that they could find. So they basically had to go and find these lifestyles, the ones here. Actually, there was underneath some of these rocks, they can also find this extremophile bacteria. Okay, most of the rovers actually had little spectrometers on them, just like the real Mars rovers do, so that they can start looking for anything that may be organic. I thought that was pretty sophisticated for these little machines. Okay, the rovers, now they were required to collect samples. It had to be a minimum of 25 grams without penalty. It could not be over 250 grams without a penalty, and they return them to the home base for life analysis. Look at how complex that rover is. Remember, this is done by students and they're part-time in here. So they're getting ready now. They already did a spectrometer on this one. They were going to try to turn it over to see if there was something else underneath this one. Okay, while looking for the samples, Oregon State almost got into trouble because I'm going to show you just a short clip of it. They went up to this wall to see if there was any bacteria in the clay. And there was a bunch of rocks there, and of course the camera didn't see them. And so when they made their turn, what's going to happen, the rocks are going to force them against the wall. And they're going to get stuck a little bit, and they'll finally work their way out of it. So, and again, this is all that they see. They're doing everything from inside the rover. So let's see what happened to that rover. Now they're wedged. The back wheel's spinning and nothing is happening. They're wedged again. Perfectly timed with the music in there. So they got out of that trouble. I don't know how I did that. That just came out right. Okay, now here's the rover Scorpio, and they're trying to pick up some samples, as we see right here. And what I'm going to show you is the command of what they're trying to do. And this is there's their rover. And I think this picture is in the command center itself. In Polish. So they're looking. So there's a steering wheel. That's the joysticks. So they were saying, hey, look over here, look over there. That's my Polish on that. But the thing I want to point out to you is how intent these students are. I mean, they are really intense here. Okay, then I have to show you Magma 2, how they're going to pick up a sample for biological testing. One of the things that's too bad that the camera doesn't show here is that on their scoop that they had one that was colored blue and the other one was colored orange. So it actually helped them to see which one was which in trying to pick up the samples. And they were the only one to come up with this. And we're going to see how they were picking up their samples for biological testing. So they're going to try to pick up that rock right there. And it's stuck. And they're bound and determined to get that sample. Still stuck. Try to get back and forth. Trying everything to get it loose. They got it. Now they have to put it in the rover container. And it's right there. It's where they're going to drop it. But look at that. They got other rocks in there. And we thought for sure that that would fall off before it got back to the station, and it didn't. So these guys were just absolutely remarkable on this team. Okay, now when they got back with the samples, they had to weigh them, and then we'll see that the biology majors that they had would start be looking at the microscope, and they had a few little chemical tests, and they had their spectrometers. And I said 15 minutes. They have 20 minutes to actually go through and study this. And they had to put together a report that explained why did they pick that particular area? What did they discover? How did they know that they discovered all of this? Okay, upon completion of their studies, now what they do is they give the presentation to us. And they have about 15 minutes. And we really grilled them. Well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? How come you didn't look for that sample and all this? So we give some real intense grilling, and you cannot believe how good they were prepared for this thing. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they were answering the questions, and it was just absolutely amazing how well they were doing this. Again, we see here each team had to justify their methods of collection. So he's explaining right in here what but he just got to explain what he saw in the microscope. He's explained what they did with the chemistry, and we have another one in here that's going to explain why they went and picked up the samples where they did. So the judges we had to keep very detailed notes on the team's presentation. So, you know, this wasn't something, oh, well, they did this, they did that. We had little tiny forms that we have to fill out on literally everything that they did. So here we are trying to discuss, did we miss something on the discussion with the teams? Do we need to come and ask them one more thing? And we decide, well, I guess that's going to be okay.
What's the background of the other judges?
This one is, that's a very good question. He's retired, a retired professor from BYU. He is a graduate student in George Washington University. She is a graduate student in, I think, in Arizona. She went to the Hill Country Community College in Waco, yes.
In what fields?
Geology. So, no, he's an engineer. She's a geology major. He is a physics major, if I remember, or an engineering major, and he's going to some big school back east. I can't remember what it is. He's working on his doctorate. He's just getting his master's in geology from BYU. He's teaching at Del Mar. So we had very diverse backgrounds. And there is a biologist in here somewhere. I don't think she's in that particular picture. Okay, so there's the scores. So BYU and Magma were very, very close to each other in there. So again, Waterloo got penalized because they were late coming back and they had over 250 grams. So they got penalized. So, you know, we got very exacting guidelines. Okay, now it's late afternoon. The competition's over with, it's time to party. So what we do is we go and cook them hot dogs and hamburgers, and everybody gets to go and communicate with each other. You know, this has been some real serious competition, and everybody's going to be looking at everybody's rovers and asking each other, how did they do all of this? And of course, just eating and talking is not going to be enough. The rovers have to have some fun too. So we can see here where the rover come and knocked him down. Now he's on the Copernicus team and was driving them all over the place. So this gives you an idea. Here's all the crowd, and then what's happening is they're going to be sitting there talking, and then somebody's going to get at the controls of the rovers, just to give you the idea of the chaos that was going on in here. So this rover's happy to be done with the competition. This rover says, I had enough of this, I'm getting out of here. And you better look out behind you. So everybody's got their rovers doing everything in here now. There's the other one going way down there. Here comes another one. So that was a lot of fun. These students were just really, they were just amazing students. Okay, now finally is the scores. And everybody's, really excited about who's going to win the competition. All right, so this is getting pretty close to sunset, so I had to kind of filter this out a little bit, so I think hopefully we can see it.
And that would be the announcement of our top three. Really, everyone down here did an outstanding job. But our top three, you will all be getting custom awards. Those will be coming to you very shortly. Custom, and we can't do them on the spot here. So. In third place, we have, with 348.8 points, that's how specific they got this year, Oregon State University. In second place, with 364.8 points, our friends from the North, York University. And for the second year in a row, the first place team simply walked away with it. There's no other way to say it. It doesn't matter what language you say it in. For the first time ever, the University Rover Challenge has a winner from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Congratulations to the Magma 2 team.
You don't think they weren't enthusiastic about this? And that's their reward. There's no finances. They paid for all this themselves in here. So these are people that just absolutely love science. Okay, so there's the final scores that we see. All right, just to demonstrate how far these rovers have advanced, this is some that I went to in 2009. Here's one of the rovers that they used at that time. There was another one of the rovers, and there was another one of the rovers. So you can see they become much more sophisticated every semester as they go along. All right, now these are the ones that are going to enter this summer. There's 12 universities, probably 3 of them will run out of money before they get there. They go all the way from Ohio State University, North Carolina, Johns Hopkins. In fact, this is Cornell University. They've already submitted their design, and that's what their rover is going to look like. So, like I say, they're getting more and more sophisticated every semester, every year. So you saw what we can get for $15,000. Let's take a look at NASA and their hardware expenses. Okay, now I just want to point out to you, in the United States, we spend $11.4 billion a year on pet food, and we spend $2.5 billion a year on Halloween candy. So keep these two numbers in mind. NASA's cost to build rovers vary from $25 million to $1.8 billion. So we don't even spend as much as we spend on Halloween candy every year for the Mars rover programs. Okay, the first rover on Mars was Sojourner. It was built it was there in 1997. All right, it weighed 23 pounds, about the same size as the rovers that we were looking at, used an 8-bit processor, and this was $25 million, this little rover. And here we can see some actual footage of it when it was on Mars. That's what $25 million gets you. That's actually on Mars.
Is it on autopilot or is somebody...
They gave commands to it from Earth. It takes like 20 minutes for the commands to get there. And guess what? The Sojourner, the module died, but they said that that rover kept working for years. It was just going around just doing whatever it liked to do. Okay, we have two other rovers on Mars the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. They weigh about 408 pounds each. The cost to build each of these is $400 million each. Now that's not for the rocket to get there, and it's not for the maintenance of it. That's just to build it, $400 million. All right, the rover Opportunity is in winter shutdown, although it may be coming back up. Spirit died in the past winter on the surface of Mars. All right, they would operate 3 months, but Opportunity is 8 years old and still working. It's amazing what we've been able to do with that one. I'm going to bypass this slide and go to the next one. This is the 1-ton Curiosity that was built for $1.8 billion. It took off in November of this year, and it's going to land on Mars on August the 8th of this summer. And there is the Sojourner, there is the Spirit Opportunity, and there's the Curiosity. Wow. So this is what $1.8 billion will get you. Now this is going to be the most, I wanted to show you this because this is going to be the most complex landing ever. What they're going to do, with the other ones they used a balloon to bounce. What they're going to do is they're going to have a heat shield, and then they're going to have a parachute, and they're going to have what's called a sky crane, a rocket, that's going to come in here and lower it down, and the wheels are going to come up, and it's supposed to work. So let me show you what's supposed to happen. I think this is in August. So here it is leaving Earth. It left Earth. On its way to Mars. That's being steered with the heat shield. Then it deploys gets rid of the heat shield, deploys the parachute. Now the skyrocket comes out. It cables down the rover. Lets it go and goes away. And now the rover starts working. Now this is what's supposed to happen here in the next, this August. Hopefully this will work. Okay, guess what? The U.S. government has just now decided this is going to be the end for Mars. There's going to be no more exploration of it. This is the last rover ever. So that's it. So what are they going to do with the space program? Well, they just decided they weren't going to go to the asteroids anymore. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in here. Hopefully we convince people that a future Mars landing will be done the same way it is with the moon, with an American astronaut, and hopefully that student actually began here at Del Mar College. And this is not what I want to see on the moon in there. Thank you for attending.